Welcome to 3D.sk, human photo reference for 3D artists and game developers. On this site you can find thousands of images, from studio photo reference to street photo reference. We also have a selection of animals on our site. We have some costumes, we have weapons, armor. We also have 3D scans of bodies and heads, clothing, animals, all the aforementioned above, and 3D maps and textures. So, carrying on from the last episode where we removed the cap and replaced it with a simple sphere, and also part of the neck, we now need to get the details back from the other model. So I'm just going to change the material to Skin Shade 4. And we need to, first of all, go to Polypaint and Polypaint from Texture. And we need to turn RBG mode on. So now it's no longer a texture and the Polypaint is actually on there. What we now need to do is we need to go back to this and we need to mask off a bit more carefully this time what areas we want and don't want to project. So I'm just going to go ahead and do similar things to what I did last time, which is just mask lasso kind of this area. I'm going to invert so I know I'm keeping this and I'm getting rid of this. So I'm just going to go to mask pen. I'm just going to go around and just kind of start masking off things. Try and keep as much of this neck as you can, because it's going to help you define it later. I'm going to quite harshly unmask the area around the ear so I make sure I get all of that ear in there. Same on the other side. To really make sure you've got it in there. I'm going to unmask any area on the face in case I missed an area. I'm going to go into here. Mask off the large areas of hair. The small areas of hair don't matter so much. Just going to mask that off. Get this area. Mask it off. Try not to touch the ear as much as you can. You can see that the mask is going on the other side, so we can easily fix that. Just need to kind of go in, very small brush, and just kind of get that unmasked. Okay, now that I've done that, unmask some areas around here, maybe unmask that. Let's definitely have this in the mask. Get that out. You can have some areas around here, maybe just a thin layer here. Because if this is where his hair actually is, it doesn't matter so much. Because it's going to be covered by hair later anyway. So I'm just going to slightly go over that with a thin mask. It's just these large areas of hair we really want to get rid of. Okay, now we need to do the ear again. Making sure that we mask off the cap, but none of the ear. As you can see, we're starting to mask off the ear here, which is not what we want. Mask off this area, mask this area. You can go in and do fine details if you like to really try and get as much as you can out of it. But we'll be replacing the skin texture on the unmasked parts later, or the masked parts right now I should say. So just double checking now. Say that's about right. Haven't quite done the ear quite correctly here. So I'm just going to go back and just go over that a little bit. Make sure to really get all the juice out of that ear as we can. now we're going to go to polygroups and we're going to go to auto groups, not auto groups, group masked. And we're just going to mask this off. And now when we go like this and like this, it's going to get this part group masked. Let's hide that quickly. And just make sure there's no kind of stray pieces anywhere. And also go to double here so we can see if there's really anything stray. Okay, that seems fine to me. So now we can go here. We can go project all. Yes, I'd like to transfer Polypaint. Now you can see where that gets us to. So we have only what we want. Now there are some errors here. If we just press Ctrl Z, we might be able to see why. So this is just a problem that can be solved by just doing some self-painting by yourself to try and kind of make those areas line up with the other areas, because the geometry kind of has to line up. So I'm just going to try this. Okay, smooth this out, project all. Okay, that's got all that information. It's almost got all this information. You might have to go around this, doing this every so often just to try and get all the information, but it seems to be okay for now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to press C. I'm just going to fill this object with a rough color. Project all. Maybe a bit more of a color like this. Fill object, project all. That'll do for now. Just so we can start to see where we're going to go with this. Okay, so next step is to divide this up a little bit. So I'm going to divide again. Go back to subtool, project all. Gonna go again, divide. Now we have 3 million polys, and this should be enough detail to match the other one. Okay, let's just save it here as we've made progress. Just gonna name it _4. Okay, now that we've saved it out and we've got just about as much detail on the original as we have on the new one, maybe some parts aren't as jagged as the original. If you can see here, if I really zoom in, you can see this kind of triangulation because this is mostly made up of triangles. And then here it just kind of smooths them out a little bit. We might lose some resolution. What I can do, we could divide it again and go up one more, but I think I actually quite like the smoothing aspect it's done. Let's have a look really close, the differences. We have lost some sharpness. I can try going up another division. Then we can try it again. Just depends on how much your computer can handle. So now I'm going to go to subtool and I'm going to go project all. Okay, now I'm back and I have projected the new details. Let's see the difference now. I don't think there's any difference at all, really. So I guess we can keep it at this. The only problem with this being is that when I try and sculpt on this, it's going to become very difficult. So what I may do with this is I might just keep this as an extra mesh, and we're just going to duplicate this. And I'm gonna maybe move it down to 5. We need to move it down to a stage that we can start sculpting easily, like so. So now for refinement, what we need to do is we need to smooth all this out and kind of match the skull anatomy. So we can start off this by choosing our smooth tool. Remember to turn off RBG. So we keep the RBG and we just smooth the actual mesh. So you don't want to smooth it too much, so I'm going to go on very fine. Just kind of smooth this out a little bit. It has got some paint issues. Just kind of smooth this area out. A lot of this will need to be fixed up, but that's fine. That's the whole point of cleaning up a 3D scan, to get to that point where you can clean it up effectively. I actually want to turn the texture off at this point so I can really see what I need to do to be able to fix it up a little bit. So I might just leave that like that. Maybe mask this part of the ear off. Let's kind of go along and smooth this. That's not masked, is it? Let's just smooth this out a little bit. Use Alt Trim Dynamic to kind of get that looking a bit more smooth. Maybe we can use a bit of brush clay build-up here. Am I on symmetry? I am on symmetry. At this point, you should definitely have symmetry turned off, which is my mistake. Just trying to make everything look a bit more like it's not separate objects. Smooth it there a little bit. Maybe make this a little bit less so sharp. I'm gonna say I'm fairly happy with that so far. Now we can just go around to these areas and just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Okay, that's fine. Go around to the ear, smooth these areas out a little bit. Maybe get my brush trim dynamic or my brush damp standard and kind of try and make this a bit more like an ear. This bit is definitely needing some work, so let's use the trim dynamic brush to kind of flatten it out a little bit, and then use the smooth brush and then make that make a bit more sense. Same here. Left a little bit of a buffer here on purpose so I could do this. Try and keep as much detail as you can from the original 3D scan. That's the important part. Okay. So now if we look at it from far away, you can really tell which parts are standing out. So what we can do here is we can use brush clay build-up to kind of really bring out some of that skull definition that we need back, that would have been there if it wasn't for the 3D scan equipment. And maybe we can make a bit of a kind of more of a side of the head here with trim dynamic. Let's move that out a little bit. Just try and follow the skull a little bit. Let's move something that I shouldn't have there. So I'm going to try and get rid of some of these kind of artifacts in the ear that I don't really want. I'm just going to smooth it out a little bit here. Okay. Maybe use trim dynamic instead. Brush damp standard. Kind of bring some of that detail back. Try not to do it too much though, because then your mesh will just start to look smooth and not realistic. So that ear seems fine for now. How about this one? This one has a few more problems. I'm just going to go around and smooth that. Maybe smooth that out a little bit. Use a bit of brush trim dynamic to kind of get that shape going. Maybe smooth that out a little bit. Smooth there. Okay, so the ears are looking fine now. Just go from far away and see if you can see any real problems. Okay, so this part of the tutorial has been mostly successful. You could go further by making it so you can kind of see that this is a bit too out. So what I can do is I can just kind of use my trim dynamic brush without affecting the ear to just kind of match that up a little bit better. Move it out. Kind of smooth it. Smooth that out. Okay, that's looking a bit better. Maybe here as well. Use the trim dynamic brush to kind of give it that kind of bit more of a skull feel. This part is mostly going to be covered by hair, so it's not the most important thing ever, but I would say it's important enough. Maybe bring back his temple a little bit here if you wanted. If you try and match where the cheekbone is, you can kind of imagine where this little indent would be. Maybe it'd be around here. Maybe make it a bit more like the other side. Trying to just kind of match up the anatomy a little bit. Okay. Don't like this line here that's presented itself. So that's it for this tutorial. So we've done the projection and we've cleaned up the mesh a little bit. We've made it so these two parts look like they merge. The next tutorial series we'll be going over texturing the head a bit more to make it match with the actual texture. As you can see here, we're going to grab some colors and we're going to get some textures off 3D.sk. Those are the texture maps that are used for ZBrush, and you put them into brushes and they also give you instructions. But I'll show you which one I downloaded in the next tutorial. See you in the next tutorial. Bye. Welcome to the end of this tutorial. Feel free to comment with feedback and suggestions below, and also comment on what you would like to see in future videos. Thanks and goodbye.